a group of kids approach you on the street in an intersection, begging for your help. What do? How does that make you feel? This is something that, you know, really hits you deep. You feel like there's so much you want to do, but do you give them your spare change, the food you have in the car, or do you kind of just put your head down, knock on the window, and ignore them because it makes you feel uncomfortable? I can't imagine what it would be like to be a kid so desperate, barefoot, looking for a handout. It's one of those things that just hits you really deep. As a kid, I just dreamed about being a Filipino so that I could eat as many mangoes as I wanted. As a Filipino-American, I was able to go back and forth to the United States and to the Philippines. And one of the things that struck me the most was seeing how some people had so much and how some people had so little. As a young person, I didn't really understand what that was. But as I grew up, I started to embrace more about what it really meant to be Filipino, you know, the spirit of the bayanihan. And social entrepreneurship is something that I learned is a tool that can be used to help solve some of the biggest problems that we face on the planet. It's about using business techniques to solve some social and environmental issues that we face every day. By using the 3 pillars of sustainability, people, planet, and progress, we can work to create businesses and create profits that have purpose. These are the triple bottom line measures which new companies that really want to make a difference in the world embrace. It's the new measure of success for companies that will change the world. I learned that my mission was going to be something bigger than myself. I wanted to create some of the greenest products in the world while helping create jobs for some of the people that needed them the most. So Bambike Revolution Cycles is really, for me, a movement that tries to bring bamboo business, social entrepreneurship, into a more relevant and more impactful way of doing business, kind of a recreation of what businesses should be doing. And the people that you work with in any company are really the heart and soul of the business model. For me, the people in our communities that we work with are our biggest assets. And investing in these communities is one of the most ways to ensure that you're going to have a sustainable impact. So I actually started out as a volunteer for a group called Gawad Kalinga, which means to give care. They build housing for the poor. And in my experience with them, we learned that, you know, just having a house over your head, a roof over your head, isn't enough to really sustain you for a good living. So you need a job. And one of the things that we did was go into the community in a GK village and create jobs. And what we do is we train the people how to build bamboo bikes, and we call them our BAM builders. They really are the soul of our company. We couldn't do anything without them. So if you take a zoom out and you look at where we work, this is in a community in Victoria, Tarlac. They're a rice producing part of the country in the middle of Luzon. It's hot, it's dry. They're very prone to effects of climate change, and it's really a hard subsistence lifestyle for most people. So we went in and wanted to improve the skill level and empower the community with certain usable techniques and skills that could add value to bamboo and create more innovative products. So here we've got 2 of our first builders. This is Nell and Ferdy. And the 3 of us had to really figure out from scratch how to turn a pile of bamboo into a bike that you can ride and trust your life with. So it's been an incredible journey, and it took a long time for us to really figure out exactly what we were doing. So it's really important to know that you can start as a novice. If you want to do something, you don't let yourself get intimidated by the fact that you don't know how to do it now. Because if you put in the time and effort, you can learn how to do anything. So what we did was ensure that the people we worked with, our builders, had a sustainable livelihood. And what we mean by that are full-time employment with benefits, so social security benefits and health benefits, health insurance, so that they can focus on the work and not worry about what it takes, you know, on a day-to-day basis to make a living. And This guy is our third employee. His name is Fred. He was born with a physical leg deformity, but he was still harvesting rice as his primary occupation. He also was doing pajak with one leg, doing a tricycle driving. But we found that his hands are some of the most talented in our group, and he's one of our best craftsmen. So we wanted to ensure that, his commute to work was literally just riding his Bambike about 100 meters from his home to the workshop that we put in the community. This was a conscious decision that made life a little more difficult for me because, it's in the middle of Victoria Tarlac, but it was right in the middle of their village, which was convenient for them. And again, taking care of the people in our company is one of our most important things. Furthermore, we invest a percentage of all of our sales to go into the community. We want to reinvest in the future. And one of the ways in which we do it is that we have a feeding program for some of the kids. So the kids that attend school get the feeding program as part of our reinvestment. And then we're also supporting the preschool teacher's salary and the scholarship program. So we want to ensure that people can see the value and benefit in getting a proper education. And actually, Ferdy's daughter is going to graduate college this year, and she'll be the first kid from the community to get a college degree. And that's one of the ways in which we can work to break the cycle of poverty. What I've really been focused on, and what really drives me, is working to uplift the community. And I love seeing the kids, every time I go back to the village, they start screaming, Kuya Bryan, and what I see are smiles, and I see people growing, and I see that their capacity to dream of a better future is present. And to break the cycle of poverty, you need kids to feel like they have the power to dream and to make better lives for themselves. So this is one of the reasons why we do what we do. With regards to the planet, business as usual for a lot of companies has treated our Earth like an externality, meaning they can mine materials over here, poison the rivers over there. Taking care of the planet has been something of an afterthought. We wanted to integrate this into the core principles of what we do and have sustainable manufacturing. So we use bamboo. Arguably, it's the greenest building material on the planet. It's super strong, it absorbs carbon dioxide, it stabilizes soil, prevents flooding. I mean, there's a whole host of ecological benefits that bamboo provides. So using that as our raw material is really important because we know that it contributes to sustainable manufacturing. And the bicycle is arguably the most efficient machine ever created by man. In terms of the amount of energy you put in and the distance and energy that you can cover to get out, you can see that bicycles are a great way that people have been getting around forever. And this is a shot from Metro Manila where you all know what traffic's like. It's miserable. You're stuck. You're inhaling fumes, you can't control your own time and your own destiny. But with the proper infrastructure and on a bicycle, you're in control of your time. And the biking industry around the world is growing. So we wanted to be a part of this to create a movement towards sustainability. So with Bambike, we really see ourselves as a sustainable lifestyle company. We wanted to help create the environment where people can make good decisions that are healthy for them, their communities, as well as our planet. So in our manufacturing techniques, we actually use this kind of philosophy where it's waste equals food. And what we mean by that is some of the rice hulls that would have normally been burnt in the middle of the field just to get rid of them, we capture them and we burn them in a controlled environment through a smoker which we've developed, which treats the bamboo. So we put the bamboo in these chambers. It's just steel drums which we've upcycled to turn into our kind of natural bamboo treatment method. So the heat helps dry the bamboo. The smoke helps treat the bamboo from the powder beetles. And then the ash from what we burn gets back into the field. So it's a closed loop system. We don't allow anything to be wasted because waste equals food for some other cycle and some other system in our process. Furthermore, some of the offcuts that we have when we build the bikes, we don't use the whole poles for the bikes. but we're left with these little odds and ends and bits and pieces. So we created a new brand and a new product called Bambike. We work with the women in the community to hand, sand, and carve these little pieces of bamboo so that we can add as much value as possible to something that would have otherwise been seen as something you just dispose of. So again, waste equals food. The offcuts of bamboo turn into a new livelihood that creates jobs for women in multiple communities. And we use indigenous woven fabrics for the ties. So it's just a matter of rethinking your concept of waste and trying to upcycle. It's better than recycling because you add value, and that's really important as you're thinking about social entrepreneurship, is systems that can add value to the resources you have around us. And lastly, we want to ensure that we don't ever run out of bamboo. So what we're doing is working with communities around the Philippines to grow more bamboo than we harvest. It's a long, long process, but it's much shorter than having to plant and grow trees, because in 3 to 5 years you can have mature bamboo poles which can be used for structural building. And progress. Progress for me is another way of saying profit with a purpose. And what we're working towards is developing a new green economy where social enterprises can have a platform to really grow and create more sustainable industries for people in the developing world. And again, this concept of value added. We are trying to take a raw material that's sustainably harvested, in this case bamboo, bringing it into communities where they can do semi-processing, breaking it down into poles, treating the bamboo so that it can be part of a building chain that adds as much value. So working throughout the supply chain and creating as many jobs along the way as possible is something really important so that we can have what we consider an inclusive growth economy. So not just making money for one company up top, but throughout the value chain, adding as much in terms of employment and sustainable livelihood as we can. And I consider investing in bamboo plantation better than putting your money in a bank. The rural economy can really be augmented in the developing world by planting more bamboo. Here on the left you see the beginnings of a bamboo shoot. On the right you see a 30+ meter pole which grew in less than a year. So the rate at which bamboo grows is phenomenal, and you'd be better off investing in this kind of industry than putting your money into a bank in some cases. So this whole concept of the BAM business, I feel, can help transform our rural livelihood scene here in the Philippines and throughout the developing world. And we're trying to improve on an industry that, previously is considered the poor man's lumber. Bamboo is used for the bahay kubo. It gets broken in 2 to 3 years. This old industry hasn't changed much in decades. So we're breaking the bamboo down actually into slats, which are then ingredients for a more advanced engineered bamboo product. And in this case, we're creating new engineered poles which can really showcase the excellence in the material and the craftsmanship of the Filipinos. And we're also trying to just encourage innovation within the bamboo industry. Taking existing building materials and applying them in different ways, coming up with new ideas, experimenting with what we have at hand. And here you can see we've used some of the poles that we use in the bicycle building process and applied it to furniture. So really the possibilities for what you can do are endless. Building materials can be replaced, and what I envision is kind of a new lumber yard for the future where you don't need to cut down trees, but where we can use the rapidly renewable bamboo to plug into existing building systems so that we can grow and build a better future and encourage other social entrepreneurs to use the materials to create whatever they dream of. And in order to ensure that we work well with our community, the distance between Metro Manila and Tarlac, for example, is about 120 kilometers. How do we make sure that we're building the right things, that we're staying on track? We installed the internet in the community, and we gave them a tablet. And we're now able to communicate and connect, and that's been really important. Not only is internet access, as you all know, so crucial to being able to connect with each other, but what it can do for rural communities is connect them to marketplaces and to new ideas and to education. So with the bamboo industry, we're trying to look back to nature and change your perspective on a material that previously was really considered this poor man's lumber, but now changing our perspective, looking at it as the building blocks of the future. And with social entrepreneurship, I have to tell you, this has been a challenging journey. With Bambike, I had many days where I felt alone and was pressed to figure out, how do I move forward with this? And grit, I found, the stick-to-itiveness is one of the things that kept me going. And I found that grit by understanding my purpose and really knowing why I got into this. So again, the people, the planet, and the progress, the triple bottom line, those things kept driving me forward. And without that, I would have been a little lost. So finding out what your purpose is, your passion, these are challenges that you guys face as young future entrepreneurs. And in order to understand what it is you want to do, people always say follow your passion. It's almost an impossible thing because as a high schooler, you can't really know exactly what your passion is. So I encourage you to stay curious. Follow your curiosity. Volunteer for some organization. Take an internship with some company that you admire. And then figure out what drives you. Think about what kind of vehicle for change you will be. And understand that the road to entrepreneurship is tough. You're going to fall, you're going to get some bumps and bruises, but with enough grit, you can stick to it, and you'll find out that you'll build the skills necessary. Again, it's okay to start as a novice. You don't have to know exactly what you're doing. This 2-year-old didn't know what he was doing when he got on the bike for the first time. But after, a little bit of practice and some stick-to-itiveness, you see this kid so psyched. So, social entrepreneurship is a winding road. And as you figure out how to balance your life, what's important is understanding the kind of impact you want to have to make the world a better place and how to make a living doing it. And that's the real trick of social entrepreneurship. So really think, what your story is going to be. Don't be afraid to start small. Look at the things in your community. Put your iPhone down when you're at an intersection and see what's around you. Start small. In your school, in your community, in your country. These things can grow and make a larger, scalable impact. And remember, social entrepreneurship is the tool that can help you make a profit with purpose. And the pillars of sustainability will always be critical. So people taking care of the planet, people taking care of the communities where you work, planet being stewards of the environment, and progress working towards an inclusive growth economy. And ultimately, with these tools, you'll be able to find your purpose and really make a difference in this world. You'll be able to make a profit with a purpose, and that's what really is important. And over my 10 years here, having been in the Philippines, as a social entrepreneur, I've learned one key lesson, and it's that success is only real when shared. Thank you very much.